Languages. You speak it, I speak it, everyone speaks language. Languages are the way we express our emotions, the way we convey information, and it's the way that culture spreads. Languages can be spoken in various different ways. For example, verbally, like the English and Chinese languages, or signed, like the American Sign Language, which is a language that mostly caters for deaf individuals. Languages can also be visually interpreted, like the Egyptian hieroglyphics, using pictograms, or also can be physically interpreted, like Braille, which is used for blind people, as well as languages that are auditory, such as the whistling languages, most commonly found in countries with mountains and dense forests, as well as languages that include singing as a method for communications. However, a recurring theme amongst these languages, from Arabic to Vietnamese to English, with English being the main language that we will cover in this video, languages have a habit of changing throughout time. Whether it's the words we used in the language to the script of the language, we will delve into why the English language has evolved throughout the course of history. The English language is one of the most dominant languages in the world, being spoken by 1.9 billion people. This number may seem massive, however is skewed by the amount of people who have English as their additional language, being 1.5 billion people speaking English as their second language according to Statista, and with only 400 million people speaking English language. However, the English language that we all know and love has evolved over a period of time, more specifically around 1,600 years dating back to the 5th century. The English language is split into 5 main stages: Proto-English, Old English, Middle English, Early Modern English, and then Modern English. Proto-English, proto meaning primitive or original, and English referring to the English language, is the primitive origins of the English language, coming from the former Celtic languages that previously dominated the British Isles regions. However, the presence of the Celtic languages started to decline due to the West Germanic languages, for example German and Dutch, eventually becoming the major language of the region. We don't really know if this is correct, as the origins and history of the Proto-English language has been debated amongst historians and scholars for a good while. However, this is one of the best supported theories, so we just have to trust the process. The Old English language was mainly used in the region of the British Isles. Old English language was formed by the fusion of various different languages that the Anglo-Saxons spoke during the 5th century. Despite having the word English in its name, if we compare Old English to the now modern English, there are many differences, with Old English looking unintelligible to modern English speakers. For example, look at this poem written in Old English. You cannot understand anything. However, there's a similarity seen in the alphabet. There were also other languages that influenced the Old English language. For example, the Celtic languages were mostly influenced place names, and Latin, which was brought to Britain due to the colonization by the Roman Empire of the British region. Latin influenced the Old English language, most notably on the alphabets and in loan words, some of which are still used today. There was also a Scandinavian influence, as the Vikings were raiding northeast Britain during the late 8th century, bringing their language with them and subsequently affecting the language of northeast Britain, to having an influence in the vocabulary of Old English. When the Normans invaded Britain in 1066, the usage of Old English slowly decreased due to influence from the Norman language, fusing together with the language of the Anglo-Saxons being Old English. Middle English first started taking form when the Normans first invaded Britain in 1066. The changes towards the Old English language were not immediate, and changes were slowly made during a 200-year-long period. The Middle English language was mostly a combination of the Old English language being a combination of Celtic, Latin and Scandinavian language with the French language, both of these combining to make the Middle English language, with the main difference between Old and Middle English being that there was a final fixed word order, as Old English was more flexible with its word order, as Old English used the subject-object-verb order as well as the subject-verb-object word order. Middle English standardized and used the subject-verb-object word order as its fixed word order. The final transitions from Old English into Middle English ended in the 12th century. Middle English has a much more similar resemblance to today's modern English, both on the vocabulary and the letters. For example, here is an example of a Middle English poem. Here there are still a few letters that you and I cannot recognize, and then here is the alphabet of Middle English. We still have the letters A to Z, however, why are there 2 S's and why are there 2 Y's? And what are these 3 extra letters? The 2 S's and Y's were there in order to emphasize the S sound. For example, one is a softer S and one is for harder S. Same goes with the Y. The 3 extra letters were the letters ash, eth, and thorn. Before talking about modern English, we must talk about the Great Vowel Shift, which was a 300-year-long period of time, which was between the years 1400 to 1700, which consisted of major changes on the pronunciation of the English language. Before the Great Vowel Shift, the pronunciation of most vowels were very different. Think about it as having a more Scottish pronunciation. Words like bite, meat, meat, mate, house, moon, and stone would have been pronounced like beat, mate, met, mat, hoes, mon, and stone. I probably butchered that, but anyways, the causes of the Great Vowel Shift is still debatable. The Great Vowel Shift then set the course of the pronunciation of modern English, where you see most of the pronunciation, alphabet, and words that are used today take place. Modern English is split into 2 main forms, Early Modern English and then Modern English. Early Modern English was the most used during the Great Vowel Shift, and the most of the grammar, punctuation, and spelling of the modern English language was highly influenced by the Great Vowel Shift and the early modern English language, as well as the accent. There were also some changes with the alphabet as well, with the letter thorn being replaced with the sound th or th used in the word feather, and then adopted an only Latin alphabet. Soon after, the modern English language developed in the late 17th century and was adopted in almost all continents of the world. The modern English language is now one of the most widely used languages and is used to conduct diplomacy, trading, and everyday life.